Hi guys, Joe here again with another video. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at a new free-to-play mobile game, Pathfinder Adventures. Now, a bit of history about Pathfinder. It began its life as a modification of Dungeons and Dragons, and by that I mean the get your pencils and erasers and character sheets out, roll some dice and go raid some dungeons, that kind of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, from there, that developed into this adventure card game, which is supposedly, I have not actually played it, fantastic. And it's a similar thing where Pathfinder have built this whole world and characters around that world, and you can play through campaigns and adventures through a really deep card game which revolves around, playing cards, digging through decks, finding items, going questing, that kind of thing. And what we have here is the mobile free-to-play version of that card game, which is based on the pencil and paper tabletop game. So we're a few generations removed from its origins, but all the same they have a fantastic depth of lore and as you can see in this background here, wonderful art, which is a legacy of all of that Pathfinder history, which also is why I'm probably going to be completely biased in this video. Full disclosure, I really love the characters that are part of the Pathfinder world, so I'm really excited to give this a try. Now, it is a free-to-play game, and that's what interests me a lot, as the box to play Pathfinder Adventures is around, I'm converting from my strange Asian currency, but it's a fair whack. It's got about 500 cards in it, and it would set you back about $60 US, like a full boxed computer game. Now, to make that free to play, I wonder where they're going to be cutting the corners, where they're going to be, funneling you down. And so far, I haven't found it to be too aggressive in that regards. But hey, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's learn how the game plays, because I'll tell you right now, if you're looking for a sit back on your sofa and tippy tap on your little free-to-play game type of a game, this is not for you. This is quite an in-depth, very feature-rich and statistic deep kind of a game, so you really need to be on the ball and play seriously. But let's go and have a look. Now, the game's split up into two modes, story mode and quest mode. Story mode is where the meat and potatoes of the game are, and the stories are locked behind a paywall. You get the starting story to begin with. You can pay for them with in-game currency, or you can skip all of that and go ahead and buy it with some real-world monies. As you can see, I've unlocked the first expansion, and again, this game is very new. The fourth expansion isn't even out yet. We're just getting started, and I managed to unlock the first expansion just with gold I earned in-game. So it's not too aggressively forcing you down the pay route, but it will save you a lot of time. Now, how do we actually play this game? Well, to play this game, we have a band of adventurers. You build a party, and you go and try to complete missions. Now, when you begin, you will only begin with Kyra, the cleric, and Mariciel, the rogue. I have purchased a character pack which gives me a few extra characters. Pretty cheap, cost me about $10 US, and add a lot of fun to the game for me, but you do not need to purchase that to be able to enjoy this game. Now, you can see my characters have been leveled a little bit. I've got a +1 on my strength, +1 on my wisdom on Kyra here. Now guys, you really need to understand the fundamentals of role-playing game to get the most out of this game, but this is also a great way to learn those fundamentals. So what you'll see when you see your character is they have 6 skills or 6 attributes: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Now, strength kind of dictates how good you are with a weapon, how big and buff you are, how good you are at smashing things to pieces. Your dexterity is how fast, nimble, and quick you are, but also how sneaky you are and how good you are at breaking into things and opening locks and the like. And your constitution, well, that kind of decides for how much of a beating you can take. It also decides how much you can resist certain poisons and other status effects. And then you have your intelligence. Intelligence is mostly based around casting magic and having knowledge of the world around you. And wisdom, which is more of and this is where it gets a little confusing, the difference between intelligence and wisdom. If you're an RPG nerd, you know this already. If you're not, and you're new to this kind of thing, intelligence kind of dictates things that you know. But of course, you can be extremely knowledgeable and be completely clueless about how to actually live your life. And wisdom is kind of that skill that dictates how kind of naturally and intuitive you are. You know, do you know about the world? Can you survive on your own in the wild? Things like that. And finally, charisma. How good are you at chatting people up and getting your way verbally? Now, we've got Kyra here. She is a cleric. They're quite a good, nicely well-balanced character. They're pretty good at a lot of things, but mostly they're around to heal and do a bit of combat. You can see she's holding a nice big sword there. And you can see next to her strength there is a D6. That means that she will be rolling a 6-sided dice to decide her strength rolls and strength checks. We'll get into what that means later. I've added a +1 to that. Dexterity, she has a D4, so that means she's not very fast. Constitution, D6, pretty average, but has a fortitude bonus. Intelligence, D6, again, pretty average. And then her real strong point is her wisdom, D12, big, juicy dice there. And charisma, again, pretty average, so she's quite a well-balanced character. Now, I've built a party using 4 characters here. One thing to point out about this game is that having a larger party does not necessarily mean you will do better. The mechanics of the game I'll explain in a bit and why that is, but just to give you an idea of what the different roles of characters look like, I've kind of put a different spread. So you'll see the wizard here, very intelligent, but not a great deal of constitution, which means he's easy to kill, but extremely powerful at dealing out damage with his fancy spells. You've got your rogue, who's extremely dexterous and able to open traps and sneak around and be stealthy, but not very knowledgeable about the world around her. Kind of strong, got a D8 there. We've got our barbarian, of course, intelligence as low as it gets, but strength through the roof, able to smash things to pieces with her giant sword. And it goes on. You have a paladin here, and a druid, and a monk, and each character has their own kind of flavor. Now then we move on to powers. Powers decide how big your hand size is and what kind of items you can use. So she's proficient with light and heavy armor, and she can do this heal. And she knows a lot about undead enemies, so she gets an extra dice when she rolls against them. Now I don't want to go too deep into the statistics here, but I just want to point out that there are a lot of them, and I could go on for an entire video just about what these statistics mean and how they are to be used at their most optimum efficiency. But as you can see, every character has a different kind of feel to them. Now once you've decided on your party, you can go on and take on an adventure. Now for this video, we're just going to take on the very first adventure you do, Brigand Doom. I don't want to do too many spoilers, just show you how the game plays and have a bit of fun with it. Now, when you take on an adventure, you will have a villain. Your villain is who you need to catch. You will be chasing this villain around several locations and trying to corner them. Now they have some henchmen with them, in this case some bandits. And then you normally have a modifier which changes some rules about the scenario to make it a bit trickier. In this case, if a monster's power causes you to recharge a card, you must draw a card after doing so, but when you require an ally, you must discard a card. So it's quite balanced. This is the first level of the game, not too tough. And then you have some rewards you'll get should you beat it. Now the party I'm taking in today has a pretty good chance of not beating this. It's a little bit too big, a little bit unwieldy, and if I do beat it, I will get this funky little instrument here. How nice. Now, let's start the game and talk about how it really plays. Now, we've run into our first problem. There are some graphical glitches with this game. I'm definitely aware of them, and we've got one here right now. I found the best way to deal with these is to back out to the main menu. You're not doing yourself any favors here, Pathfinder Adventures. I'm trying to tell people how good you are. So let's start that again without looking at the reward. Yeah, there's definitely some graphical glitches in this game. Mechanically it's sound, but every now and again you just get a card that won't get off your screen, and backing out tends to do it. Now there's a great story that goes along with it. ERASTIL, entering a new town, looking to make some money. Ozun with her there, the wizard. He wants to go and check things out, get more knowledgeable, learn about some stuff. Uh-oh. Someone needs the help of a few adventurers. We are equipped and able, bud. I'm more than happy to help you get a supply shipment past the waterfront. That brigand, Gibral Visky, and his thugs. There's some classic fantasy names there. Incompetent sheriff, can't seem to do a thing about it. I think I know that sheriff from my days of playing Pathfinder. Sheriff Hemlock, I do believe. Anyway, yeah, we're going to accept a quest. Yeah, sorry, Ezrin, you're going to have to wait. We've got some adventuring to do. So into the game. As you can see, it's going to run us through the rules. We read this before. And it's going to show us who we're up against. Now you can go in and take a little closer look at this guy. Before you act, recharge 2 cards. Now, we'll get into what recharging means and why this is a pain in the backside later. But we're going to have to do that. And then if we want to beat him, we're going to have to hit him for at least 10. And then his bandits. Now these bandits and himself are going to get shuffled and placed into a few locations. I think we'll see that now. There we go. Now, these different locations are spread across the board, and each location is slightly different. So here we are in the woods. When you're in the woods, you will have some at this location modifier and a when closing modifier. Now we'll get into those in a bit, but basically what this means is somewhere in these 6 places is our brigand, our villain, the guy we're trying to catch, Jibral Visky or whatever his name was. And what we've got to do is go to these places and start to dig through a deck of cards until we find him. Now, as we dig through that card, we might find items that we can keep, we might find enemies that we must defeat, or we might find him. Now, if we find one of his bandits and defeat them, what we can do is close this area, which means all of the cards are removed and no one needs to be there. You can see I've got 4 people and 6 locations, so I cannot have one in every location. And what will happen if we encounter the boss is that even if we defeat him, he will be able to run away, providing all of the other locations are not closed. So right now, if I ran into him first turn, he would be able to run to any of the locations, even if I have a guy there. And those guys will be able to try to close it, which we'll see as we play. But really what this is you have a limited amount of turns to chase this guy around, corner him, and catch him. Now, to close it, you also need to pass a test. So you want to send someone to locations that will be able to pass that test. Now, we looked at the statistics on our guys before, and we know that, for example, if we went to the academy and we need to survive an intelligence or arcane check, our wizard would be a good man for the job. On the other hand, we have a charisma and diplomacy check. Now, we don't have anyone particularly charming with us. We might save that one for later. But you see at this location, you may be able to attempt a dexterity or disable check in place of the usual check to acquire a boon. So we'll send Mirisil there. She'll be able to do that quite well. Summon and defeat a bandit henchman. When using a weapon, subtract 1 from each die rolled. Now, we don't want to send our weapon-wielding barbarian in there. Mirisil will do a little bit of a good job over here. We might move her there. Wisdom or survival check there. And defeat a monster. So I'm going to spread my resources out thin so we can have a little look at what each of the characters looks like when they play. And we can use our turn order and get involved. So let's see how the game actually plays. A lot of preparation just to even get in. Like I said, guys, this is a deep game. We are playing essentially a fully fledged tabletop card RPG game that with a manual as thick as your wrist. Now, when you get to a location, this is what you see. It's a little overwhelming at first. There are a lot of buttons all over the place, and they can be a little bit confusing, but essentially what you see here flashing is my deck that I need to find him in. You can see the little number in the top left. There are 10 cards in that deck. One of those cards may or may not be the boss. One of those cards will be one of the bandit henchmen, and the rest of them could be anything. Could be traps, could be weapons I can gather, could be people I could meet, all sorts of things. So let's have a little look. Alright, we found an enemy in the first one. Now let's take a look at him a bit closer. So he is increased by the Scenario Adventures deck number, so he's not going to be too tough at the moment. Subtract 1 from each die rolled in your check to defeat the Warlord, so I need to beat him with a 9. Now at the moment I cannot physically do that. With a 6-sided dice and a +2 modifier, the maximum I can get is 8, so it's time to get a weapon involved. Luckily I've got my flaming mace here. I like this a lot. It gives me a d8, so now I have a potential of 16 I can get to get a 9. Now, I really don't want to get hit because I have no defense here. And when you get hit, your cards are your life, and you have to throw them away. So I'm going to get someone to give me a blessing. Now I can go to one of my characters on the side here. Now this might be a bit overkill for a little warlord, but I want to show you the mechanic. And so we'll get our buddy here to use a blessing. Now a blessing adds another die. Now I've got a 6 and an 8 and a 6 and a 1 to just get 9. I'm probably going to win. And I get 13. Easy. Now you can see down at the bottom there I have just completed one of the daily quest steps, and that can lead to me being able to get some free gold. So important that we try to complete those every day, and that's my turnover, so I'm going to move to the next character. Now Ezrin has this spell. This spell will allow him to examine the top 3 cards of the location deck and choose a type, and if I find that type I can encounter it right away. So let's give it a go. We don't really need to do that now, but I just want to show you how it is. And we're going to try to find a bandit straight away so we can show you what closing looks like. I did not find one, so everything's just going to go back as it was rather. And I know now it's going to get shuffled. And I can try to recharge. Now recharge means when you use a spell, you can try, instead of discarding it, to put it back into your deck so you can use it again. And like I say, your health is the number of cards you have in your deck. Once that number hits 0, your character dies. So it's very important to be able to recharge. Luckily, I only need to get a 6. I've got a +3 modifier and a 12-sided dice. I don't think I really need to waste any blessings on this. Though of course, the dice can give you a 1. Once you get a 1, you're stuffed. I only made 4 out of the 6 I needed, and I lost the card. So, as you can see, randomness is a huge factor in this. You can be playing your cards absolutely perfectly and then just roll a 1 and lose. But that does not make it a bad game, trust me. Now, here's a spell. Pretty handy little spell. I cannot physically lose this. I need to roll a 2 and I've got a +3 multiplier. So even if I roll a 1, I will get 3, which will be enough to get it. And I get a spell. Now, one of the things that this location does, and I can press this button to see on the location usually, is that when you find a spell, you are able to encounter again. And I found the bandit I was looking for. So we can use our wizard's skill expanded spellbook. That means he can open up, and if the first card that comes up is a spell, he can draw it. And it was an offensive spell. Now, I'm not going to use it because I want to use this offensive spell, the lightning touch. Almost did something silly there. When you encounter the bandit, you must recharge a card. So I am going to recharge Detect Magic. I don't really need that right now. Recharge means it goes back into my deck. Now it's combat time, so it's lightning touch time. Let's hit this guy. All of a sudden I've gone from having 1d6 of using my little weapon against him to having a d12 and 2 d4s. This bandit is probably going down. Unbelievable. There you go. A little bit of bad RNG for you. So I managed to not win that as well. Discard a card. What am I going to get rid of? Oh, what am I doing? I've got Arcane Armor here. Now, this is good. Even though I'm having some terrible rolls, it has given me the chance to show you how armor works. Now, I've got some magical armor here. I can discard the card and reduce the damage done to me by 2, which is exactly how much damage I took. So, I do not need to take any damage. And I can try to recharge my lightning touch. Watch me get a 1 again. No, this time it's okay. You don't get him when you don't need him. Now, as a result, I can try to recharge my armor as well. But as a result of losing to that bandit, he will get shuffled back into that deck, and I have to keep digging when I could have closed the location very early, which would have been good for me. I'm going to save the sage for later. So a little bit of a bummer there. But that's how the game goes. I'm not really trying to win this. I've already beaten it. I'm just here for the fun. So it goes on. Now we're on to our rogue. She has a skill she can use. You may discard 2 cards to evade an encounter. I don't really want to evade a friend, but I also don't have much chance of winning this friend over. I'm not going to waste the blessing, as I don't particularly want that card. Now, if you want to keep digging, you can expend a blessing. Now these blessings, they can be used to help your friends or to help you. Each one of these names, blessing of ERASTIL, blessing of Calistria, blessing of Lamashtu, these are all gods that are built into the Pathfinder universe, and they give you different types of blessing. So you can see this blessing will increase a dexterity check, or can just add 1 dice to any check. So we're going to kind of waste it here to explore again, which is its third ability. You can just waste the blessing to explore again, but just to show you how that works. And I find a goblin warrior. I need to fight him. I'm going to use her backstab skill, which means I can throw another card into the bin. I'll get rid of my thieves' tools. Oh, sorry, to recharge it, sorry. And get another dice. And I've got to beat 11, and I roll like rubbish again. Lucky, I've got some armor. Now that could reduce my armor by 1, or I can bury it to reduce all damage, but lose the card and not be able to get it back again. Now, as you can see, I've been doing a lot of talking about how this card works, how that card works, how this card works. There are 500 cards in the base of this game, and more that come over time. So you get to learn them pretty quickly now. For me, I know exactly what the archer does, so I don't really read it. But as you can see, the game gets pretty deep. Now I'm playing very recklessly here, just to show you kind of how everything works. So we get a spyglass. I'm not going to bother rolling up. I get lucky. Now spyglasses, again, they're quite fun because they allow you to take a look at the top 2 cards in the deck. And I believe I can rearrange them. So I want those caltrops, so I want to encounter them first. If there was a weapon there or something like that, I could have made sure I got it before I encountered an enemy or something like this. So quite a useful card. That's her turn done. Now, as you can see in the top there, the little light would have just flashed, and I've gone down to 25. That's how many turns I have left to close all the locations and hunt down this enemy. Now, I could sit here and make you watch me play an entire game, but I won't do that. I do want those caltrops there, so I'll use add 2 dice to a dexterity check. Now, this is fun. I only need 4. There we go, I got 11. The caltrops are a very powerful card, very handy, and I'm working towards my free 200 gold for the day, which is always pleasant. Now when you end a turn with too many cards, you have to throw them away. Now it'd be a bit silly to throw something away when I can actually just go and dig again. So I'm going to dig again, and I find the cultist. I'm going to use my mace, and try not to get a horrible roll. It wasn't a great roll, but luckily I had the modifiers to defeat him. Now you see he went up in ashes, flew off the screen, he is gone from the decks. And so the game goes, guys. You get more cards, you get more party members, you get new and interesting games, areas that you need to explore. I've just encountered a scout. Now his abilities, he gets to shoot an arrow at me before I get to do anything. So I have to defend myself with my braces. And then fire an acid arrow right back at him. Take that, you horrible bearded man. I'll try to recharge that acid arrow. Should be okay, I only need to get a 1. I basically can't lose. And the digging continues. See those graphical glitches showing up again a little bit. It's not the most ideal, but for the fun that can be had in the game, I'm not going to let a few little glitches get in the way. Eloquence. Oh, I failed that check. And I won't get the chance to get that again this round. Now, if the game were to go on, I could keep on playing and playing and playing all of my rounds, and if you guys are interested in seeing some strategy videos and getting a little deeper into the ins and outs of the game, I'm still kind of learning, but I feel that I'm getting a better grip on it every day. I'll be happy to make a few of those, so let me know in the comments. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to forfeit and show you what happens at the end of a game. If you've gathered some items, you'll notice that when an item goes into my... So when I get this stride that I've just got, it gets given to Ezrin, and I have actually earned that card now. So this is how you get new cards. And at the end of every game, even if you forfeit, see how it's running through all my remaining turns. even if you forfeit, you can keep the cards that you found on that run. So you might have to play a round a couple of times to beat it, and trust me guys, when it gets to the harder runs, you will be playing it a few times. The first time I go in, I don't even know what to expect, and I immediately kind of play a few rounds and tend to go, okay, I have completely the wrong party, I'm backing out. Though on the other hand, it is possible to beat entire missions with just one character. Now you'll notice there was 6 locations in that last game and only 4 characters. If you went in with one character, there would not be 6, there would be less. The game scales to the size of your party, but the turns do not. So you have 26 turns for 6 people or 26 turns for 1 person. You can see which one is going to be more efficient. Now at the end of the game, I can hand out my weapons. Now each character has a different amount of things, not just weapons, sorry. I can hand out my earnings, let's say. So you can see here during that game, Kyra got some caltrops, you remember me getting those, but she can only hold 1 item at a time, as her item slot only has 1. Now I can take that out and give it to someone else. I know someone who might fancy some caltrops, but I'm going to need to get rid of something. So this potion that makes her more chatty, I'm going to get rid of it, and I'm going to give the caltrops to my Marisiel here. So now let's have a look at Ezra and what he's got. He's got too many spells. Detect Magic and Stride. Now Stride is a very handy spell. I do like it. I'm going to try to fit it in there. I've got 2 lightning touches, 2 fiery weapons. I'm going to lose a fiery weapon. Or should I lose a lightning touch? I'm going to lose a lightning touch in order to have Stride. Movement is very important, and being able to get around the map and move your other friends around the map is very important. Now the spells that I take out of my hand, I'm going to lose. Bear that in mind. You can only rearrange at the end of a game. You can't go and then hand out these spells you didn't keep to other party members. Too many items. She got a Spyglass. Spyglass is kind of handy. I might see who's got more room for items. I would like to hand these across to my monk at some point. Because that's the other thing, the items that you find might not be good for the character that found them, so you're going to want to pass them off at the end of the round and try to optimize your build for the next time you go in. So last time I got a cool weapon, I got this dog slicer +1, and I know that if I were to give that to someone like Ezrin, it would be really useless. I haven't found a good weapon for him yet, or at least not something that doesn't rely on his strength. I want a weapon that relies on a different statistic, because his strength is, I suppose it's not the worst, but again, you could go on for hours about how to best equip your characters, but not really what we're here to do today. So that's it guys, that's the nuts and bolts of how the game works. There's a lot more to it, it's a lot deeper than I have given. I'm just trying to scratch the surface a bit today. I might make a couple of videos that go into the tactics in a bit more detail at a later date. Now there's lots of missions, and they all have different rewards, they all have different modifiers that make it difficult, or even some of the modifiers make it quite easy. For example, this Local Heroes mission is a really fun mission. Basically, at this point of the story, you have just completed saving everyone's butt, and so you're in town and all of the shops are kind of open to you, and you can go in and dig through those decks, and you're going to find some traps and things in there, but I came out of that with tons of sweet gear. Now other ones you go into, you do a lot of fighting, other ones you need a lot of magic, so you need to build your party and try to work your way through them. Now as you can see, this is locked. I have to pay for it. So let's go back and take a little look at the free-to-play elements. And then we can take one little look at the quest mode and we can get going. So we have the store here flashing up. Now you can see I made a minor investment. I spent about $15 US on the game when I first got it. I realized I was going to enjoy it and I'm happy to spend that. You don't need to though. There are some special bundles that come out, so this would get me all of the missions that come out in the Rise of the Rune Lords timeline. Now there are a bunch of these and they're already written guys. These stories exist in physical form. You can go to your game shop in your local town, and any game shop worth its salt will probably stock these. They're giant boxes with hundreds of cards in them. They're really cool, but they're also really expensive, so the ability to be able to bypass the physical overhead and play this digitally, whilst you don't get to do it with your friends in such a fun way. It is great when you're sitting on the bus and you can play a little bit of Pathfinder Adventures. Now you can also buy the missions one by one, and you can use in-currency gold, 4,000 gold. Now, how much does it take to get 4,000 gold? Well, the answer is, I'm not too sure yet. I've only been playing for about 5 days. I bought quite a lot, but I spent it all, and I've earned about 2,400 gold just from playing in that time as well. Now, you get a couple of hundred gold when you beat missions. You get daily gold, I guess I've been getting as well, which has accelerated my earning. And you've got these daily challenges, which we'll look at in a bit. Now, you can also get characters. Again, I bought this character deck, which had 4 characters and a bunch of items in it. Now, you don't get those items right away. Like I say, you've got to go into the game, you've got to play, you've got to find that item, you've got to succeed on the check for that item, and then you've got to give that item to the person that wants to use it before you actually have that item. But what it does is it adds those cards into the decks that you can dig through, and you can potentially find it. Now, that is not an inhibitor of free-to-play. That is how the game works if you get it out of a box as well. You can't just go through and say, I want all the good stuff on my character. You have to go out and earn it. Now, if you want to have the other characters, there's a sorcerer, there's a fighter, there's a bard, and there is a ranger, and I really want the ranger. You have to spend in-game currency to get them. So 1,500 gold, I would say you can get that in about a week of moderate playing. So over time, you could build your parties. Now, I'm not doing that now because I'm saving up for an adventure, and also because I feel like I haven't even scratched these 5 characters I already have. Having everything too fast in this game can actually get in the way of learning how it works. Now, here's where it gets really free to play. Like, you can buy these randomized booster pack treasure chest things that have fancy cards inside. I haven't bought one of these yet. I probably won't be anytime soon, and but they can, anything that comes out of these treasure chests will be added to the decks that you can potentially get. As I said, you don't just get it, it goes into those decks in game, and then you might draw it at some point on your adventures. Now, earning gold, well, apart from buying it over here, and it's really reasonably priced. I actually found the daily gold to be about $2 US, which I thought very reasonable for 200 gold a day. At the end of the month, I will have enough to buy an entire adventure for what amounts to $2 US. I just have to wait for it. Now, how do you earn your gold? Well, you may have noticed as I was killing people in that final campaign, I was getting 1 or so gold for every person I killed, 5 for closing a location, 100 for beating a mission, but I think you only get that the first time. I'm not sure. I haven't gone back and reran any missions. And then there is your challenges. So today I need to use 30 blessings and I will get 200 gold. That's not a small amount. That's quite a lot, considering you'd have to win 200 battles to get the same amount. And a character, well, they're only 1,500. You do the maths. You would only need to do a week's worth of daily challenges or so, and you would have yourself a character. Now, some of the challenges are harder than this. And then let's go on to the last mode. You see there's multiplayer there. It's not out yet. It's coming soon. I can't wait to see how that works. And we have quest mode. Now, what quest mode does is it takes all of the characters you have, all of the cards you have, and it generates random encounters for you to try to fight. And you can build several versions of your own characters. So you can see here I've got a level 1 Marisiel. I can start with her, or I can go to my experienced characters. You can see I've done a few little missions, build a party, and just go out and play a randomized mission. So let's just put together a party of Marisiel, Kyra, and Ezrin, and just see what we get. Now, in this mode, you can level the characters independently. You can even have 5 versions of Kyra at different levels with different gear. I can just take a little look. Oh, and one other thing to mention is the story mode gear that you have equipped is not here. So you'll notice that in this game, Ezrin has a heavy crossbow. And the other thing also to notice is every card you find in this game, you can equip at any time, unlike story mode where you lose it. So Kyra can go ahead and take anything I've ever found. Likewise, Marisiel, and likewise Ezrin. So this way you can just amass as many cards as you want and just go and play random battles with the best possible gear you could have. But the gameplay itself, as you'll see, is exactly the same. You go in, you just get a tier and a difficulty, and it doesn't tell you what's going to happen. You get a reward based on your party size and the difficulty of the mission you're about to do. And when you're done, you might get 90 gold. So you can come in here and you can grind out gold infinitely. They're not going to tell you can only do a certain amount a day. You could just sit here and run through missions until you had enough to buy everything you want. So, wow, I feel like my mouth has been running at 100 miles an hour, but there's so much to say about this game. It's a very, very cool game. I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to be playing it a lot more. I might produce some videos about it. If anyone out there cares, come along and let me know. Now, I know there's people that have played the physical card game of this who are way better than me, and I would love to hear some feedback about what I'm doing wrong. I'm really learning this game at the moment, and despite having a little bit of a grounding in Pathfinder and sort of understanding how the game works, I'm definitely not good at it. That will come over quite a long period of time. It requires a lot of thinking, a lot of skill, and a fair amount of luck. So there we have it, guys. Pathfinder Adventures. Really fun game. Not for the faint of heart. There is a lot here. It is completely overwhelming at first. I hope this video might make a few people out there seem a little less intimidated, but as I say, this really is only scratching the surface. It gets very deep, but if that's what you're looking for, you will find it in this game. Now, I'm going to give my mouth a rest and go and play some more Pathfinder. As for you, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.